bring Yehuda up to date and everyone up to date. Just a little review for everybody. So, good morning. You want to send to the group that we're on, Ariel? If somebody, let's say Bishogay, not knowing that this woman was his sister and his aunt, and the Gemara explained what the case explained last time. What the case was has one woman to be both your aunt, from your father and your mother, and also your sister. The question is, would he have to bring separate katos, separate korbanos to each violation when it was in one woman? If it would have been multiple women, different women, and he violated different prohibitions, and then he was brought to his attention that he did something wrong, then obviously he would have to bring a separate offering, separate korban for each woman. But here it was one woman. And also they all have the same, it was all connected to the family of prohibition. It has to do with sisterhood. One was your sister, your father's sister, your mother's sister. So is there a separate chatat for each prohibition that was violated, or is one chatat? That was the discussion. And why is that important to us? Because the Gemara said that the Rabbanan, there was an extra word achoto. And the Rabbanan say that the word achoto, that extra word achoto, is teaching us this law that for each prohibition is a separate chatat. Rabbi Yitzchak said that the extra word achoto is teaching us that if a person goes ahead and sins with someone who is obligated karet, the Torah writes, it's teaching us there's only karet and no malkut. That was our discussion. There was a major discussion. A sin that carries with it karet, does that sin also have malkut? Does it have lashes? Or it only has karet? Right? That was the question. Rabbi Yitzchak said that the Torah writes, the pasuk repeats itself about karet by his sister, teaching us only karet and no lashes. There's no lashes by someone that's obligated karet. That is the opinion of Rabbi Yitzchak. The Rabbanan disagree. So the Gemara says the Rabbanan disagree, but what do they do with the extra word achoto? So why does the Torah write the word achoto? He says that's telling us something else. It's not telling us it's only karet and no malkut. It's telling us that for each prohibition that was violated, even the same woman is obligated multiple chatot. That's what the Rabbanan say. The point of the Torah writing, repeating itself by saying achoto, there's karet, teaching us that there's a separate karban for each violation. So the Gemara we left last week was, where does Rabbi Yitzchak know that from? Where does Rabbi Yitzchak know this law that if the woman is both his sister and his aunt from both sides, that there'll be multiple karbanot? Good morning, Jaime.
Good morning.
And the Gemara's question is, how does he know it? Because he doesn't have the pasuk available, because he used this pasuk already for something else. That was the Gemara's question. So the Gemara last week wanted to say that the way he knows it from is because from a kal v'chomer. What's the kal v'chomer? So that's what we learned last week. We started last week. We'll run through that Gemara. The Gemara, Amar Rabbi Akiva. See Rabbi Akiva? Amar Rabbi Akiva on 14a. In the Art Scroll, 14.8.2. So the Gemara says, how does he know it from? The paragraph begins, Nafkale Mikal V'chomer. So the Gemara says he learns it from a what? A Kal V'chomer. One of the principles of the Torah is called Kal V'chomer. You have something that's more strict and something that's more lenient. If the lenient item has a certain law, certainly the stricter item would have that law. So what's the Kal V'chomer? Amar Rabbi Akiva, Sha'alti es Rabbi Gamliel Rabbi Yeshua. I asked Rabbi Gamliel Rabbi Yeshua, Be'itlis shel imum. In the marketplace of imum, what did I ask them? They went to buy, the rabbis, what were they doing in the market, in the meat market? They went to buy an animal for the wedding of Rabbi Gamliel. And like we see over here, the Gemara tells us this fact. why does the Torah tell us, like mentioned on Friday, why does the Torah tell us where the question took place? So one idea is that we said that the Torah is teaching us that in life, when you see the rabbi, you might see a rabbi in many different places. You might see him in the yeshiva, you might see him walking in the street, you might see him at a wedding. Take advantage of that opportunity. And Rabbi Akiva took advantage of the opportunity when the rabbis were going to buy meat. He went over to them and he went ahead and he asked them the following question. If someone sleeps with his sister, and she's also his aunt on both sides, she's the sister of his father. And she's also the sister of his mother, Mahu. What is the law if someone does such a sin? So what now? What's the two possibilities? Maybe he's obligated for all of them one korban. The question is maybe because they're all connected with sisterhood. They're all achot. They're all sisters. It's a sister, an aunt, mother, sister, father, sister. So maybe they're considered one korban. Just like if someone would have slept with his sister many different times, and then he found out he couldn't do it, he brings one korban. So what's the law if it's one person but many different prohibitions of sisterhood? Or is he obligated on each and every violation that was done? Since this woman was also his father's sister, his mother's sister, his own sister, would he be obligated a separate korban, total of 3 offerings of chatat for this one act which carried a violation of 3 sins? That is the question that Rabbi Akiva asked. One act, one person, but three different sins that were violated. In the Torah of the 613 mitzvot, there was three of the 613 was violated in one act with one person. But they're all connected, to sisterhood. So that's true, but it would seem if it would be one person and totally different independent prohibitions, he would not have asked the question. It would have been obvious that each one gets its own korban. But the question, the uniqueness of the question over here, good morning, Nathan. The uniqueness of the question over here seems to be that since the prohibition, they're all, that's how some understand, they're all related. It's all connected to sister. So some understand that's why the Gemara is asking the question, maybe it's counted like one. That's the issue. So the rabbis said, we never heard anything about it. Lo shamanu. Shamanu, but what did we hear? Very good. They never heard their rabbis. They never heard a case from their rabbis. Meaning the rabbis heard a lot. There's a lot of discussion of oral Torah that they know, but this particular situation, this particular question, wasn't. They didn't have any recording from their rabbis, any teachings from the rabbis on this particular case. I mean, many of you might say it's a very wild case, but again, the Gemara talks about cases that are not common to be able to teach us certain teachings, and we need to know. So the Gemara says, "Amalu Zulu Shaman." They did not hear anything about this case. What do they think? They did not hear what the law is if a person sleeps with a woman that is both his sister, his mother's sister, his father's sister, the same person. Does he bring 2, 3 offerings of chatat, 3 sin offerings, 3 korbanot, or does he bring 1 korban for this act? So he posed the question, and the rabbi said, we never heard anything about it. But you know what we did do? Well, we heard something else. And based on what we heard, the other thing that we heard, we could figure out your question. Because one of the principles that the Torah works with is kal v'chomer. If I know A, and A is something that's light and has a certain law, so B that's more strict would definitely have that law of A. So therefore, they're saying, you know what? I didn't hear anything about this. And that's what a rabbi needs to do. A rabbi might not have heard discussion on every case, but his job is to take the cases that he does know and apply it to the new situation. Or if you look at Moshe Feinstein, what does he do? There's a modern question in halacha: can I do this? Can I do that? So what does he do? He takes the whole Gemara, the whole Shas, everything that has been stated, and he'll apply that to the modern question, right? Based on, they never spoke about Shabbos clocks, so they never spoke about certain things that never existed before. But everything else, but all the Torah that Hashem gave the Torah, that the Torah within it has answers for every question. The greater the rabbi, the greater he knows how to apply and to compare and to know what's comparable. And sometimes a person, the rabbi who's not as great, sometimes would make a mistake in his analysis of comparing things. And the greater the rabbi, the greater his knowledge, and the greater that. And in Moshe, you'll see where Avad Yosef, where they could draw from. That's what they're drawing from. They're going to draw the answer. There was a question that was posed to them. What is the law by this woman? If a guy sleeps with his sister, it's also his aunt from both sides. Does he bring 3 offerings or 1 offering? That was the question. They said, we never heard anything about it. But we do know something else, another law, and that other law will answer the question for this law. And what is the other law that they know? So they said they know of Shamanu Haba Chomish Nashim Nido. If a person goes with 5 women that are Nido, 5 women that are Nido, Behelem Echad. That means 5 different women, and they all have one prohibition. The same prohibition for those 5 women. What's this prohibition? Nida. Each one of those women were Nida. And then he did not find out between each one that he went with until after he finished with all 5 women. Then he was notified, by the way, there's something called Nida. There's a prohibition called Nida. So if he would have slept with one woman that was a Nida 5 times, he brings 1 korban. One woman, 5 different times, 1 korban. But if it's 5 different women, and it's 5 different actions, what do we say? He brings his chayav al kol achat v'achat. He's obligated a korban on each woman, each nidah that he slept with, separate offering for each one. He'd have to bring 5. Right. What? Right, because Behelam Echad means in one lapse, one forgetting. Because if a person, let's say, slept with a nidah, and then he didn't know she was a nidah, she didn't know it was forbidden, and then it was brought to his attention, and then the next night, the same woman, he again had a lapse. He would have to bring a separate korban, even though it's the same woman. But since he was notified in between that she was forbidden, then it starts again. He would have to bring a new korban.
But Rabbi, isn't he chayav karet?
He's chayav karet, but here we're talking about it was done unintentionally. He didn't know that he didn't know that she was an idah. So that's why he would not have to bring karet. If he does it intentionally, he would be chayav karet. Correct. In relations. Right, but let's say the second time he had relations, he thought it was someone else, or he thought it was, or something like that. Or let's say he found out she was Nida. She thought that tomorrow she's no longer a Nida, and made a mistake again.
Rabbi, if she's a goya, automatically she's Nida.
A goya, that Nida is different. The Nida is, I mean, whatever a goya has her own prohibitions. Maybe whatever. There's no biblical Nida, to my knowledge, by goya. There's different prohibitions by goya. No, goya is not correct. Goya has their own problem going with the goya, their own sin.
So goya is not is not technically nida because all her life she doesn't go to mikveh.
Right. But there's mikveh does not have to do with the goya because she's mikveh is given for Jewish women. So therefore, there would be no biblical prohibition of nida by a gaya. There's other problems by going with a gaya.
So she's not technically nida. A goya is not.
not on a Torah level, whether on a rabbinic level or something else, but not on a Torah. There's other issues, other problems with Goya, big problems with Goya, big sin with Goya. And I think the Rambam talks about the problem that a person gets attached to the Goya and they might marry. If they marry the Goya, then it's over for the children. then the children become Goyim if they marry, if they would eventually marry the Goya. Right. Again, if they had children with a Goya, the child is a Goy. With a Nida? Oh, very good. Excellent, Nathan. If a person sleeps with his sister and they have a child, the child's the mamzer. Illegitimate child. That child is called a mamzer. Not just the child that someone goes with a married woman, has a child, that child's illegitimate child. The child of one's sister is a mamzer, and they're not allowed to marry a Jew from birth. And that's going to be a great way to stop people from doing such things. Because they understand they're ruining their child, so to speak. They're making it very, very difficult for the child. But he doesn't have that posture. Rabbi Yitzchak does not have the. But very good. But we have yeah. But if you have a kavachoma, the Gemara says, if you have a kavachoma, lama likra, you don't need a pasuk when you have a kavachoma. If the Torah tells us something that you could figure out from a kavachoma, then in a certain sense, you don't need a pasuk. You don't need. That's what the Gemara is going to ask. What does the other rabbis do with this kavachoma? But what does Rabbi Yitzchak say? What do the rabbis say? What does Rabbi Akiv? What does Rabbi Gamaliel, Rabbi Yeshua say? They say the following. Uma nida, back in the Gemara. V'nirin, they said, this is what we heard. Haba chomish nashim nido. Someone, one assignment. Someone slept with 5 women nidot behelem echad, in one lapse, without knowing that it was forbidden. Shechayav al kol achat v'achat. He's obligated a separate offering, a separate kol chatat, for each and every one that he went with. V'nirin dvarim mekal v'chomer. And if we, from a kal v'chomer, we'll be able to answer one of Yosef. Yosef, we're going to answer our question from a kal v'chomer. What's the kal v'chomer? Ma nida shehi shem echad. A nida, it's one name, one prohibition. This nida, the Torah says, don't sleep with a nida. Still, even though it's one shame, it's one name, chayav al achat va'achat. Nevertheless, he's obligated a korban on each and every woman, each and every nida that he violated. So kan sheshlosha shemot, here when there's 3 different names, there's 3 different prohibitions. There is the prohibition, one is his sister, one is his mother's sister, one is his father's sister. So lokol shekain, certainly you should be obligated. Now this rabbi holds that even though it's in one woman, he holds the fact that it's different names would definitely make it a stronger reason for obligation. Let's explain this point. If the obligation, if there's one violation, we have 613 mitzvot. The Torah, and if you violate one of the 613 mitzvot, you're obligated 1 korban. Now, when he goes with 5 women, 5 different nidot, it's all one violation. It's one violation. It's repeated offense. And not knowing that I did something wrong until after all 5 was done. But at the end of the day, the total amounts of violating, what type of prohibition of the Torah was violated, there was one prohibition of the Torah that was violated. It was violated multiple times. It was violated 5 times. but there was one prohibition. So what does he say? If this one prohibition was violated 5 times, so certainly 3 different prohibitions that will, and we say for violating that one prohibition, you didn't listen to God, and he violated, was with a nida, he's obligated, we find that he's obligated 5, if for each and every woman, he's obligated a separate offering. So this rabbi holds 3 different prohibitions. The fact definitely will be obligated a separate offering. He doesn't feel that the fact that it's one woman or multiple women should make a difference. He feels if you put one against the other, which is stronger and which is weaker? Which is a stronger act of violation? 5 different women and one type of sin, or let's say 3 different women, or with 3 different violations in the same person. Which would be the more likely candidate to have multiple offerings? So he understands the main thing is we go look at the violations. If there's multiple violations, that is a stronger reason to be obligated than the fact that they're different bodies, that it was different people.
So it's the severity, you're determining which sin is more severe or harder to resist.
But I'm saying I'm not sure if it's, but we're saying there's different violations here.
Which is the worst sin? 5 different women, or one woman 5 times?
Say that again.
Which is the worst violation? 5 different women or one woman 5 times?
Or one woman with 5 different violations. Our case
okay.
Right. Because our focus here, we have different violations that are happening here. And a korban, and it's more likely that a korban, separate offerings are more likely to come for separate violations. The fact that the violations happen in the same person, he doesn't look at that should play a great role if you want to look at which is stronger and which is weaker. We're going to see the other rabbi is going to question the Kal Vachomer and say it's not such a great Kal Vachomer, because the fact is maybe there's a difference between multiple people and one person. But this opinion, the way this rabbi, the way Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Gamliel are saying that if the same woman has multiple different types of violations, she's his sister, a violation number 1. She's his mother's sister, violation number 2. She's his father's sister, violation number 3. The fact that they're in the same person does not make it, at the end of the day, there's still stronger, more reason, it's a stronger case, it's a much stronger case. This is still called the chomer. This is still called the stronger one. And therefore, if the nidah is obligated for 5 different korbanot, it is 5 different women, but she's obligated, we look at it, she's obligated 5 different korbanot. Certainly, this, if you look at different people on one side, there's multiple people, 5 different idot on one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is same person, but 3 different violations. What is more strict? What is more likely to be obligated korban? Because they're different people? Is that the more reason? Well, what's more compelling is different violation. Different violation. And therefore, if we find that the Torah yet says that even if it's the same violation, it's a nidah, one violation. He didn't know that you can't be with a nidah. But the fact that it was done with 5 different women, that creates 5 different korbanot. So certainly one woman who has 3 have different violations, That's a much stronger case that it's different violations will be obligated to korban, even though it's in the same person. That is the understanding of Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Gamliel. And therefore they say we have a precedent. The precedent on record is nidah in 5 different women. That precedent will will teach us, Mr. Haber, regarding our case when it's the same woman. Because we're gonna chart it and we're gonna say the same woman with multiple violations, it's much stronger case to say different korbanot than one violation with multiple women. Dr. Navid, you hear what's going on? Yehuda, is it clear? So there is a chidush. But the more thing, there's a chidush. There's no, you hear what he said? Because it was one lapse, no warning, and he just didn't know. He didn't know that he can't be with any dot. So he went, because of that not knowing, there was one not knowing. There was one, he did not know what? He didn't know he can't be with any dot. So it happens to be, he went with this woman, and he went with this nida, and he went with that nida, but it was one not knowing. So you would say for one not knowing, bring one korban. If it would have been the same woman, and he went 5 times with the same woman, and he was with the same nida, he brings one korban, and he wasn't notified until after 5 times he was with her. He brings one korban. But we have this fact that he heard the rabbi said, you know what we heard? We heard a great chidush, that it was 5 different women, even though it was one lapse. He didn't know it, they were all that. They were all the same violation. But yet, we heard, what did I hear? He brings 5 different korbanot. He brings 5 chadat, even though it's the same violation. So they say, what? It's true, like Mr. Batesh says. He violated 5 different people, but it was one. But all those violations happened because he didn't know about one law. All those 5 different people. It's true, it was 5 different people. He went with this woman, that woman, all 5 different women. But it was all for not knowing one law. He didn't know one law. There was one forgetting. And yet we say that 5 korbanot. So the rabbi say, hey, that brings 5 korbanot when there was one. He just didn't know one law. So when you don't know 3 laws, you didn't know the law of your sister. You didn't know the law of your father's sister. You didn't know the law of your mother's sister. It's true, it's in the same woman. But that's a much more compelling reason to say you're obligated 3 different korbanot. Because you didn't know this, you need a korban for not knowing that. You didn't know that, you need an offering for not knowing that. And you didn't know that, you didn't know that you need an offering for not knowing that.
Rabbi, what's the definition of knowing the law? What if you knew it's prohibited but didn't know the punishment?
If they knew it was prohibited,
but didn't know the punishment.
Regarding korban, even if they don't know the punishment,
they give the korban.
He would still be obligated to korban, just like a guy who is not religious. And he found out all about, there's certain things that he finds out about certain things. He never knew anything, but he still has to bring a korban. Yes. But that's not true. If he right, exactly. And you're going to see the Gemara is going to question this Kavachom. But I'm just explaining the case. How two different sins or two same sins? It's the same thing. This is also. But again, remember we said that the chiddush here is if it would have been multiple sins with the same women, total different, unrelated, it would, but here's Navid, the chiddush is that even though they're related to sisterhood, right? They're all related to sisterhood. Navid, they're all related to sisterhood, and he's still going to say he's obligated to separate korban for each one. They're all under the umbrella. This is a sister, this is a mother sister, the father sister, and we're still saying they can, because if they were totally two independent sins, violation of the same person, definitely they would bring two separate korbanos. Here the question is, it's that all the violations are connected to sisterhood in the same woman. It's different levels of sister. One's a sister, one's a father sister, one's a mother sister. So that's what the Gemara wants to say is the Kal V'chomer, that he wants to learn out that regarding this woman, if she's both your sister, someone's sister, and mother sister, father sister, with three different violations, you would definitely be obligated three different korbanos. That is what Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Gamliel said to Rabbi Akiva, to answer Rabbi Akiva's question. I never heard anything about it. I have another law, and based on that law, I'm going to be able to say a kal v'chomer to answer your question.
So it's the violation that you do not call
Right, violating that sin, three different violations, the same person, right? One violation, that was one violation, one transgression, and multiple women. One, meaning you violated one of the 613 mitzvot, but it was multiple women. If it would have been the same nidah, one korban. If there's multiple women, 5 different korban. So what does the Gemara say back? V'idach, what does the other rabbi? What does the other rabbi do with this kal v'chomer? Meaning to say, if the Chachamim, Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva, who learned out the law of sleeping with one's sister, who's also his father's sister, mother's sister, from the extra achoto, they learn it from that extra achoto, that the Torah specifies sister to teach us that he's obligated a separate offering for each one. But why do they need a pasuk if you have a kal v'chomer? If we have a kal v'chomer to teach us this law, we don't need an extra word of a pasuk to teach us the same law. That's something that you can learn out from a kal v'chomer. The Gemara says you don't need a pasuk. You have if it's obvious, kal v'chomer it's something that it's like an illogical idea, something which is weak has a certain law. Something that's stronger definitely will have that law. So why can't now there is a question, by the way, that the commentators ask is the following. You can't learn out a punishment from a kal v'chomer. That means if the Torah tells us there's a punishment for something, and then you want to say, you know what, I have a logical reason based on kal v'chomer to learn out a punishment. We don't punish based on logic. We don't use the principle of kal v'chomer. If this is punishable like this, we're going to learn ein onshin v'hadin. We don't punish through the use of a what? Of a kal v'chomer. So because I saw one commentary said, but you know what? Maybe you're punishing someone. Maybe you're making a mistake. And you're causing a punishment that's not appropriate. Yeah. Oh, very good. So the Ritva says what Yehuda said. Ritva makes a distinction between punishment like lashes or punishment by death. That's one type of punishment we don't learn out from a kal v'chomer. We don't use the logic of a kal v'chomer. If this is obligated because then the other thing will also be obligated to create a punishment. But a korban is a different story. Korban, an offering of kapara atonement, it's a different type of item. It's not a type of punishment like physical punishment. And therefore, some make a distinction and say we would be allowed to learn out from a kal v'chomer this type of obligation. That an obligation of offering, bringing a korban to the Beit HaMikdash is not similar to a type of punishment of lashes or other types of punishment of that sort. And that we have the ability to learn out from a Kal V'chomer. That's one approach. There's other approaches. Now, back to the Gemara. The Idah, what? Yes. A woman will also bring, yes, a woman will also bring a korban. Yes. She would also, yes. General women, there's a Gemara that says women and men are hukshu l'chol onshim Shabbat Torah. The punishment that apply to a man apply to the woman too. What's it say? No, the act is not it's not based on any time that a person does that sin, he's obligated that korban. Okay. Yes. No. Until now, we're saying the Kal V'chomer is good. Now the other rabbis, I'm gonna say they have a problem with the Kal V'chomer. The Idach Kal V'chomer prichahi. There's a problem with the Kal V'chomer. What's the problem with the Kal V'chomer? Mal l'nidah sheken gufan muchalakim. They hold the nidah is different bodies, different women. The other rabbi says, no. Maybe the reason why you're obligated by a nidah for the 5 different women, 5 different korbanot, because they're 5 different women. Which the fact that they're different women, maybe that is the drive that causes the all those korbanot. But if it will be the same woman, I don't care there's 3 different violations in that same woman. But this rabbi is saying that perhaps the fact that there's different women, maybe that's the reason, maybe that strength that they're different women, as Mr. Bitesh was saying, was different, he violated different women. It's true, it's one type of sin. But maybe the reason why the Torah gives 5 different offerings over there is because there's 5 different women. But here, even though there's 3 violations that are happening simultaneously in one act, but it's all happening in one woman, maybe the Torah will not obligate 3 different offerings for one act that are all related to sisterhood in the same woman. So that's what they're arguing on. And that's why the other rabbi says, I don't buy the Kal V'chomer. I don't buy that logic. You said that you should definitely be obligated multiple korbanot, but since here it's 3, it's the same woman. What did you say? Even though it's 3 different prohibitions, but since it's one act, one person, maybe there's only one korban, and therefore you can't say Kal V'chomer. That's what the Gemara is saying here. Okay, everybody, everyone having the thinking caps on. Thank you all for keeping your thinking caps on, and we'll continue tomorrow. It's a complicated Gemara, but we're gonna keep on going through it. All the best.
Thank you,
everybody.
Rabbi.
Thank you all. Thank you for being here. Pleasure seeing everybody.